On episode 77 of Chit Chat, we're making a list, but probably not checking it twice. We will be talking about games, though, that are both naughty and nice, literally. Whether they're friendly or have a little bit of take that, we run down some of your holiday options.
Welcome back, everybody.
Yes, welcome back. It is episode 77. When was the last episode we had, everybody?
Episode 76.
It feels like a while ago, but it was indeed number 76, not 1976.
Wow, that's a long time.
But episode 77 is a special one this year. The holidays are approaching, and we thought instead of doing a typical holiday guide, although this will fill that category as well, we are approaching this with a naughty and nice sort of slant. So we're going to talk about some mean games, and we're going to talk about some maybe not so mean games. Hopefully, maybe no games that you're going to gift to someone to be naughty or to be mean to them. But anyway, before we talk about any of that stuff, I think we have a winner from the last episode from 1976.
Yes. What did we give away last week? I don't even remember what the game was.
2 Back to the Future games.
That's right. So the winner was Jazz Cruz. Last name Cruz. Congratulations. Email us at manvsmeeple@gmail.com. This week, we're going to give away a Christmas game, Elf.
Ooh,
It's appropriate. And another game, Sumatra. So both of these
not a Christmas game.
Right, but this is a good family game, and this one's just a good game. We played it on our SM live stream. So, yeah, to be entered to win, all you have to do is email us, or not email us, make a comment below.
Yeah, make a comment below. You can email us too, but you probably won't win.
No.
Speaking of Elf, totally off topic, but has anyone watched that show on Netflix that shows sort of the behind the scenes on Elf?
I watched that one and the Nightmare Before Christmas one. It was very good.
I watched both of them sometime over the last couple of days. Those are very interesting. I actually like those as much, if not more so, than any of the Toys That Made Us ones or the other series that they had.
I was surprised that Danny Elfman, who's a name that all of us have heard before, especially if you follow movies, you've heard that name, that he was in Oingo Boingo.
Oh, you didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was like
no idea.
Oh, yeah, he was Oingo Boingo.
Idea.
What blew me away was that he had never scored a film before they asked him to do Batman or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Unbelievable. Anyway, welcome to Chit Chat, where we talk about board games and Netflix programs.
Right.
Like I said, we're going to talk about not necessarily a list, but we're talking about some mean games. We're talking about some not so mean games. And maybe, hopefully, some of them can also be gifts that you might give or games that you play over the holidays. Who wants to start? Are we starting with naughty? Since it's naughty and nice.
Let's do all of our naughty lists, because that makes the most sense. Like, we were throwing you a curveball on purpose. I think people may have tuned in to think that we're going to talk bad about games. Like, these are the good games you want to give, and these are the games that you should give people if you hate them. Like
the lumps of coal.
Right, the lumps of coal. That's not how we're doing it. So as David said, we're doing naughty. These are kind of like head-to-head games, competitive games. Yeah, take that type of games. And the other ones are the nice games. These are ones like cooperative games, or just ones that are more casual, that you're all kind of working together, with indirect conflict and stuff like that. So let's start with naughty.
Go for it, Jeremy.
Who wants to be naughty?
Kira, why don't you go first?
What, me? You're going to ask me while I'm putting up the controls here? I'm not even prepared.
Ryan, you go first. I nominate Ryan.
I'll go first.
Have you been a good boy this year?
You know what? You guys would have to tell. Because you're the only ones that have really seen me this year, because it's been such a crazy year. Now, like Jeremy said, I focus on games that are fairly mean, as far as like you can really kind of have some hurt feelings and maybe some fights breaking out around the table as you crush your family in board games. But I think all of mine are still games that I love to play, and that I think anyone would love to get if they're a gamer that likes that competitive head-to-head experience. My first game that I would qualify here is Unmatched. This is a 2-player asymmetric head-to-head battle game where you are literally fighting each other across the map, and your only goal is to completely decimate your opponent. I mean, try to block them at every move, try to hunt them down, and use your powers and your cards to counteract theirs. The reason I recommend this game is because at this point now, there are so many different Unmatched expansions, and this is coming from Restoration Games and Mondo, so they have access to a whole library of IPs. So you have things like Jurassic Park, you have Alice in Wonderland, you have King Arthur. I mean, there are just a ton of varieties. And Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Is King Arthur an IP?
Well, it's public domain, isn't it?
Public domain, but
I think they had to work with the estate of King Arthur.
But basically, if you know someone that likes something, like is really into Buffy or is really into Jurassic Park, you can bring them into this game, even if maybe they don't necessarily like the head-to-head experience. I think having a character that you really identify with or really like kind of helps you get into that spirit a little more.
Yeah, to your comment about this being on the sort of naughty list, I can't remember who it was. I saw someone recently on Facebook posted, hey, I wanted to try a new game with my wife, and she's not really into conflict-oriented games, but I decided to try Unmatched with her.
That seems like a mistake.
Yeah, like the thing is about any two-player game, obviously, right? Those are... Any head-to-head game is going to feel like a little bit more conflict, period, because there's one winner and one loser. I don't have any of those on my list, but yeah, Unmatched. Do. Oh, you do?
Yep.
Do you want to go? Is that what
I can? I'm ready now. I've got my pictures up. I was listening to you guys talk. You always go first, so I had your pictures ready. So mine is Watergate, because obviously a lot of people. So to Ryan's point about why we pick these, mine are really oriented around family, and I didn't stick with this year. It's more like things that you could get anytime. So I went with Watergate because it's my husband does not like games where I'm picking on him, and for some reason he liked this game, which I was kind of surprised by to begin with. So it worked out. Can't complain. So anyhow, I think it's great. It's easy to learn. It's 2-player, so if you're just a couple at home, the kids are asleep, you want to play a game at night, I think it's a nice game for that. And it's just a really cool, fun theme that you didn't think would be fun at all, as well. And
what do you mean? Watergate is like
right?
Laugh Riot.
I remember when the cover came out, I was like, why? And it's one of my favorite games. It's just really good, and I've recommended it to a lot of family members, and they've all been able to pick it up really easily. And it's just a really nice game it's quick too. It's not going to take you all night to play.
Perfect for the holidays too. I remember my grandfather used to gather us around the fireplace and tell us about how Nixon resigned. It was kind of a Christmas tradition.
I think Nixon is a great choice for anybody's naughty list too. I'm pretty sure that's where he ended up.
That's a good.
I mean, it is a good game for the naughty list.
Now that's a good comment. You win the comments on her.
All right, I'm out. George Costanza style.
Bye.
All right.
Next, I wanted to pick games that you could buy right now, and I also wanted to be relevant, so I picked all games from 2020. So my list was obviously much smaller than what most people here are going to have. I also wanted to find games that weren't super hard to find. So I didn't want to pick like Sleeping Gods and Ether Fields, all those games that I enjoy this year will probably be on my top 10 list. But I wanted to pick things that are more casual, laid back, and that you could gift to people. Like all of my games mostly are things that you can play with your family. And I'll start off with Seven Wonders, the new revised edition. I think Seven Wonders to this day is still probably the best pure drafting game available. Like it's so good. And the new edition comes with all the old stuff. So you have, you get the base set first, but also you can buy like the leaders and the cities and all the other expansions with it. They've done a lot of tweaking to the game. So they've gone through and rebalanced a lot of the old cards. So I'm going to end up upgrading all my stuff to the new version and getting rid of my old version. But it's just a really good game. I think that Seven Wonders will go down even 10, 20 years from now being one of the best drafting games that's ever been made. And I don't think that's going to be surpassed for some time. It's just a pure game. It's very, very easy to learn and to teach to new people. So I think it's one of those games that's really accessible. Plus, it's mean, but not like overly mean. Like you're not really just hurting people. You're just drafting away from people.
You're like indirectly hurting people. Like,
yeah, well,
you can mistakenly take a card and not realize that you're irritating the person to your left.
Well, that depends on how you play Seven Wonders, right?
Well, sure.
Like any drafting game, there's the drafter and then there's the hate drafter. And if you are the hate drafter and you're just looking at your opponent's table presence, you can really hurt them by just burying all their best cards.
Well, see, that's the beauty of the game too, is that as you get better with the game, you start to learn those nuances. But it's very easy to play, even just out of the box. So I love that game, and I'm so glad they revised it. I'm glad to see more of these older games that been out for 10, 20 years getting revised editions, and this is a good one.
All right. Well, the first one on my naughty list, and I used a lot of the same criteria that everyone has talked about so far. I believe all of these games were in 2020. I only have a couple for each. Naughty, too nice. This first one, though, I don't know that I can recommend it. But I will tell you, it is the naughtiest game or meanest game I've played this year.
Uh-oh.
And ironically, I think it's also meant to be played by casual gamers like a family. So those things usually don't really mesh well. I wouldn't typically recommend a game like that. It's called Candy Lab. And this game, Kira's put up pictures of it. You may have never seen it. I hadn't seen it until, I think, about a month ago. Alicia and I played it with some friends of ours, and it is all about you're trying to fulfill these cards that you have in your hand. There's this single row of these sort of like candy-looking sticks, these translucent colored sticks that you're taking off the board, and when you take them, you're trying to match the colors on a card. Like it could be orange, blue, blue. And if in that row of colors there's an orange, blue, blue, you're able to lay that card down and take them. But all the cards, when you fulfill them, they're not only points, but a lot of them have powers. So you could fulfill a card and then say, oh, this card lets me make you lose the last card you got done. Or it lets me randomly take a card from your hand. Or it lets me switch my hand with your hand. So that thing you've been working on for the last 2 rounds, now you don't have it in your hand. You are spending more time in this game screwing over everyone else at the table than you are trying to do what you're doing at the table. It's going to be a game with some hurt feelings and some irritated people in the end. But if you like that sort of naughty, mean game, it could be the light sort of casual game to introduce to your nasty family.
Are you saying Candy Lab?
Yeah.
Candy Lab.
I was sure he was saying
Never heard of it.
Candyland at first.
Not Candyland.
Okay.
Although that is a nasty game to all those who play it.
When did this come out this year?
I think so.
I've heard of it.
I hadn't heard of it either. Rob and Christina had it when we last saw them and plunked it down on the table. We played it, and they let us take it because we thought, oh, this could be good because it is a very easy, accessible game. And Alicia's family likes to play games like Skull, where you're like screwing with each other.
Oh, yeah.
So we think that it might go over well, but it is not the kind of game, like I would never bring this home and play it with young children because I think people will just get upset unless you have kids that are awful and love to mess with everybody else at the table. So Candy Lab is my first naughty game.
Kira, back to you. Or Ryan, back to you.
Yeah, I was going to say, hold on.
Oh, back to me. Okay. I have 3. So this is my number 2. This is Small World of Warcraft, which came out this year. Everything I'm about to say also kind of applies to Small World, but Small World of Warcraft is the newer one. If you have a gamer that you're buying gifts for, they'd probably appreciate this just because it's kind of the hotness right now. But it is a mean game. I mean, everything about Small World is try to take as much territory as you can before your opponents just come and wipe out everything you did. So really, it's a kind of back and forth where each player is just kind of steamrolling over the other player at the table. But the fun in the game is that you're getting all these different like race and power combinations, and you're able to draft these. And there's a lot of timing in this game as to like when you're going to switch from one a set of these tiles to another, because they're all going to give you bonus powers. And you really want to make the most use of these as possible. But like David said, this game is all about sticking it to your opponents. I mean, you're finding ways to just literally wipe them off the map to the point where they can't even play anymore. That's how you know you're doing well, is when they basically have to keep switching their races over and over again. So there's a lot of fun there. It's very easy to pick up. It's very easy to play. And many people consider Small World to be gateway-ish. And so this isn't like a hard game to play, but man, for people that like going for the throats, like games like Risk, this is a much better game, I think, than Risk, to be honest.
Oh my!
And Jeremy, I know we've played this. We played this on the live stream.
All I can think about is the live stream and how you just, I don't know.
You guys seemed to have so much fun that night.
I was
yeah,
just
that was an
middle.
argument that went back and forth for like 30 minutes.
And carried over to BGG.
I was gonna say carried over for 30 minutes, and it went on the whole night and the whole next week and the week after that.
Yeah, everybody was like people came from our show to BGG, and they were posting, and they were going back and forth with other BGG members. I mean, it's kind of neat how it kind of snowballed like that. But there was finally a ruling. I'm not going to spoil it. You can go to BGG and look it all up. But anyway, but despite some minor rules issues, it is, I think, still a really fun game. But it is very, very mean to your opponents.
Can I interject really quick? What do you guys think about mean games, the kind of games we're talking about, that are also meant to be gateway games? Like, I'm not sure I'm going to try out a game that's super mean to people I'm trying to adapt into the hobby, because especially if they get destroyed, most people, or a lot of people in this world, aren't going to go, you know what? What's next? Because that was a lot of fun getting completely destroyed.
Yeah, but look at the games that people played growing up, like Monopoly, where your goal is literally to wipe other players out, or Risk.
And my point being, lots of people who played those hate board games.
Sure. But like, I grew up playing Risk. My family would play Risk every Christmas, which going back was kind of a crazy thing, because somebody always ended up mad every Christmas. Somebody would get mad over the game of Risk, but we always had fun playing it. We always came back to playing it. So I don't know. I guess you have to know
on your family. Yeah, it depends on your family or you play with.
I was gonna say, it's you gotta know who you're playing with. Like our gaming group that we play with, our two friends that we play with, is a couple, and they, especially the wife, loves screwing over her husband in the games. Like it's like her whole goal is, what can I do? And like, can you guys help me mess with him? Like, she loves that. And so I totally bring those games to the table for them every time. And I love mean games. So it's probably one of the few times I actually get to play mean games on a regular basis is with them. So you just got to know your group.
Yeah.
Well, group's one thing. I'm thinking new gamers who aren't really sort of like into the hobby, and
whoever
like really
you're playing
gateway.
With. Group as in
you just gotta know,
my mom's house or my aunt's house or whatever. Well, cool.
You're next, Kara.
I am? Oh. Village Pillage, which is from Jelly Bean Games, and it's an older game, but not really, and it just had a little...
2019, right? Not that old.
Is it? Oh, gosh. Didn't we play that at Metatopia, Ryan? I can't remember. It's been forever. What even is time anymore? Okay, so Village Pillage is a great little game, and it just got a little expansion that just showed up, so it's fresh on my mind. It's just a really adorable little mean game where you are picking cards. You are choosing which card you're going to put on your left, which card you're going to put on your right. And those cards are going to have different things that trigger, and they trigger in different order based on their type. So yellow card or green cards trigger first. And so if you have a wall and you've got a green card, you're going to be able to, or you've got a raider card, like a red card, you're going to be able to protect against it. But if you left yourself wide open, they might be able to steal your turnips. And the whole point is to get so many turnips and so many artifacts throughout the game in order to win. And so you're drafting better cards, and your goal is to steal turnips from your neighbors, not just earn them on your own and really keep them from winning the game. And it's a cute, light, mean game, but it is a little mean.
Oh, yeah.
I had Alma Mater. It's really the only Euro game on my entire list, I think. Well, I guess Seven Wonders is kind of a Euro, but I don't know. I really like that game. I did a review on it. It's I consider it to be moderately mean. Like, it's not mean, but there's elements of mean from blocking other people. Mean. It can be, but it's just a really pretty game. And I think that this is one of those games that it falls right in the gateway section for me. I mean, it's a game that I can introduce to new people. I can play with my family. It's a very simple game, but also it's got a lot of like little nuanced stuff that you can learn. And I think it's just out of all I was going through all the different games in my head. Like, could I put Tekenyu in here, which I didn't? Could I put a different type of Euro in here, and like Praga or something, or maybe
There's not many mean. There's not many mean ones, right?
I was just trying to find one that, kind of rode that line of being gateway and also family friendly. And Alma Mater was the one where I think that it'd be a perfect gift to give someone if they're into board games. Also, if you're a gamer and you want to like take it to to families. If you're meeting with them during this holiday season, it's kind of a good little gateway game to teach people. Plus, its theme is pretty friendly. Yeah, I like it. Plus, the little book components are really cool. And those things are fun. So, Alma Mater.
David.
Alma Mater.
You guys don't seem too excited about Alma Mater.
I love Alma Mater. I just don't think it's gateway.
I am. I'm just like, you said,
really?
You called Alma Mater a gateway game.
I think in the sense of Euro games, I mean, outside of games like maybe Stone Age, that's like super simple. Well, I think Gateway is one of those games that's just, it's very easy to play.
Well, I mean, yeah,
I would say Alma Mater.
Gateway to different categories, like, is there such a thing as a gateway heavy game? Then maybe
right. It is a good intro to like medium weight Euro games.
Yeah, that's fair.
But like when I think of a gateway, I think of something like Splendor.
Yeah.
Like something that I can literally take to a non-gamer and say, "Come into the hobby, let's play Splendor and Catan." Like
that's fair.
I couldn't take Alma Mater, I don't think, to a person that had never played any board games before, but for somebody looking to make that jump into medium weight games, I think it's a great choice.
Cool.
Yeah, like Splendor, Anachrony, stuff like that.
Anachrony.
Yeah, Gator Dave says you're going to call Splatter games gateway games, Jeremy.
No.
All right, is this the last naughty, or do other people
have one more?
We all have three, David. I technically have your third.
I just have one more naughty. Oh, you do have my third?
Mm-hmm.
I'll talk about that last. My next one though is Oceans. This is from North Star Games, and if you've ever played Evolution, Oceans is actually not quite as nasty as Evolution. They did dial that back because there's not quite as much direct attacking other players. But if you play Oceans, you'll know you're creating different species of underwater creatures really in front of you. And the cool thing about the game is all the way around the table, you're kind of connected in this ecosystem where you might be able to feed or leech or all sorts of things off of the player to your left, or literally their first species to the left, or the player to your right, or maybe the first player that has a certain type of species. So everyone's trying to get all these little fish, which is the population on each of their species. And on your turn, you might be doing things that completely take away the population of the other players at the table. So you're all trying to get your own engines working. And if you can have the engine that kind of not only works, but works off of the other players' engines at the table, it really makes people have to like figure things out. And you can really get flummoxed by just going, I don't know what I'm going to do at this point, because you're getting 100 population each turn and I can't make anything happen. But it's a great game. It's actually a really, really good game. Evolution is one of those games, and Oceans now, that I think like everyone's familiar with it. It's not talked about a ton, or not as much as a lot of other games, but Oceans in particular is a really, really good version of it. And they introduced all these cards. I think all of us like games that have a big old deck of cards where all of them are different. Yeah. This has these deep cards that have some really crazy species that you can start. That's a lot of fun. So Oceans is my next naughty game.
Good game.
Yeah, I really like it.
All right, number 3.
Yep.
All right, number 3 for me is Patchwork Christmas Edition, and this just came out. This is already themed for Christmas. I think in other countries it's just called Winter Edition, but this is the perfect gift for gamers at Christmas. Patchwork it's a fun 2-player game by Rosenberg, and it's really pretty to look at. You're kind of building out this quilt and collecting little buttons, and for as cute as this game sounds and as cute as it looks, it is actually super mean. I mean, it's a 2-player game, and you're collecting these fabric pieces that you're trying to put on your grid to kind of build out a quilt. And the game is all about forcing your opponent into moves where they either can't take pieces, have to take pieces that don't fit right, or kind of having to spend too many buttons, which is like a currency. And so you're spending as much time in the game building your own quilt as you are literally just trying to block your opponent and take moves that might benefit you a little, but are also going to really hurt your teammate, which I think makes it a great 2-player game, especially when you have 2 people of equal skill level kind of going head to head, both people trying to block each other at every move. So I think, it's kind of like Watergate Kira mentioned earlier, very easy to play, but once you start really learning how the game works, it really becomes more about blocking each other than it actually becomes trying to build your own quilt, which is a very interesting way that it changes over time.
Totally.
Plus, it's UA Rosenberg, so.
Is there anything different structurally, mechanically with the game, or is it just skin?
Well, this just came out, so there was an Americana version that was a skin, and so I'm imagining that this is the same thing, though it might have some different like Tetris pieces to it. Also comes with some like Tetris cookie cutters, so you can make Christmas cookies in the shape of patchwork.
That's adorable.
Well. It's just kind of funny.
Hilarious.
But, yeah, so that's mine. That's my last naughty game.
My next one is Dice Throne. Obviously, I can't go without mentioning this game. It is absolutely mean. You are battling each other throughout the game, and you are definitely... Somebody is going to get hit with an ultimate or some really awesome ability during this. This is, if you don't know Dice Throne, I talk about it all the time. It's a great game for new gamers. It's a great game for families in all age ranges, really. As long as reading, or you can help them read, you can play pretty young. At a convention, there was a 7-year-old playing and telling me all about his favorite moves. I couldn't believe how well skilled he was in this game. But the great thing about Dice Throne 2 is you don't have to get the big battle chest, which you see behind me. Like, you get these little 2 hero boxes, and you can just pick a couple of heroes to start with. So it's also a really nice stocking stuffer size game, I think, almost. And in a good like gift exchange gift if you don't know what to get for people. And it's just very, very, very gateway and a lot of fun to play, but definitely mean.
You're right, it's mean.
Kira, I didn't listen to any of that. What game did you just say?
Are you kidding me? I knew something was up because you said nothing. I was talking about Dice Throne.
He was reading he was in the comments with Cosmic Encounter.
About something else.
Oh, whatever. You're watching the Gamer Awards. I know what's going on.
No, I'm not. I'm not watching the Game Awards. Oh my gosh. So funny. No, I was thinking about Cosmic Encounter because someone had mentioned, Patrick had mentioned Cosmic Encounter. I mean, that's a really good game as well. Anyway, my last one is Trekking the World, this game. And probably wondering why I even picked this. I know you guys are wondering why I picked this. Yeah. We actually played this the other night. Again, and David and I did a preview for this, but the reason why I picked this one is because it's a really, really simple set collection game about moving your tourists around the world in order to collect these souvenirs and to visit these historic landmarks. The final production, though, is really, really pretty. They have these cards in them that are all historic landmarks. So on the backside of them, they have all this information about them. And as you know, COVID has stopped pretty much tourism everywhere around the world. Plus, it's a really good educational game. So when we played this, we played it with our family. So we were kind of explaining things where things are and whatnot. But it's a really fun set collection game. And I think it's probably it's a perfect game to get for your family. Like, if you wanted to get something that is gateway, and this is totally gateway, so anyone can play it, but also has kind of an educational theme to it. This is it.
What makes it mean?
What do you get that look for?
How does it mean?
Nobody understands why it's mean. It doesn't feel like a very mean game.
Why is it mean? Because there's blocking in this game. Like, there's ways to position your pawn so people can't go through you. So you can block off country routes from other people. So if you're trying to get specific landmarks, you can see what kinds of souvenirs they're collecting or cards they're collecting, and then block them from taking that historic landmark. So they have to reset their hand and get a different landmark. So there's absolutely mean elements in here that if you play it with kids, you have to be aware that if they're building up a hand of cards that are needed in order to get that historic landmark, you can, if you're in the position, you can snatch it away from them.
I definitely feel like that's something you would do to your kids. Like, I don't see this game as being that confrontational unless you're trying to make it confrontational.
Here's a good life lesson.
Yeah.
Well, it's a great game. No, I totally agree with what you're saying. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Yeah. All right. So
I have one. I have one more mean game. Now I'm going to ask everyone: have you ever played a roll and write that's mean? Because roll and writes typically can't be mean because it's pretty much you're calling out something and everyone's doing it. Well, someone figured out how to do it, and it was with Sonora. Sonora is a flick and write. So you're flicking these little discs, Crocono style, to sort of determine where you're allowed to, on your board, mark things. And because you're taking turns flicking, people are able to knock your discs off of what you are on, and so on and so forth. Now, at the end of the day, you're still able to sort of cobble together some things, no matter where your discs were, but it just might not be exactly what you were hoping for, because you are trying to use some dexterity to get it exactly where you want, and then just crossing your fingers that no one's going to knock it off. So there's definitely some meanness there. Now, this is one of those games I think strikes a perfect balance, for me anyway, where the meanness is so fun that no one gets hurt feelings. It's just, it has that perfect balance of just laughing it off and not really getting too upset about it. Because like what Ryan, you mentioned earlier, there's games where you set things up, and then people can pull the rug out from underneath of you. That's mean. That no one can get behind. But this one's just it's kind of mean fun anyway.
Mean-spirited.
So Sonora is my last naughty.
Yeah. We put that on the live stream as well.
So we're going to transition over to our nice games. So hopefully there's no conflict in here, although I think there might be.
Jeremy's going to list the same 3 games that he listed before.
I'm looking at Ryan's list, and I'm going, okay.
With that said, Ryan, lead us off.
So I classify all my games as nice, and you'll understand why as I go through. I picked all games that have little to no take that, as in like you are not exactly going head to head with other opponents. Either they're more of a multiplayer solitaire experience, or you're playing cooperatively. And the first one that I'm going to mention is a cooperative game, and you've heard us talk about this before, but it's Marvel Champions. And this year, the Rise of Red Skull campaign box came out. If you have a Marvel Champions fan in your family and they do not have this box, this is the perfect gift. It does require the base set to play because of all the tokens and everything, but this is a cooperative game, both the base set and the Red Skull, that lets you choose a Marvel hero. And this isn't just heroes from the movies, like they're going deep into comics to pull some fan favorites. Pretty much you'll find a hero here that you love. And it's all cooperative. So players that don't really know how to play games, or who are definitely not competitive, you get to play this game together. And there are a ton of different bosses now to fight. And that Red Skull box gives you 5 new ones. You choose your hero, you choose a villain. It's all kind of a unique experience every time. And since it's co-op, you can really help out other people at the table. I play this a lot with some friends and family that aren't huge gamers, because they know if they have a question about the game, I'm answering in our best interest. I'm not going to give them some, oh yeah, you could kind of do this thing, because you're really trying to cooperate, because you're only going to win this game if everybody works together. Now, that doesn't mean you won't have a fight like in any cooperative game when somebody does something that you don't want them to do. I don't know. That happens.
I'm thinking more about that game is naughty to you. Like, that game beats you.
It can be hard, as any good co-op can be, but I think it's a really good team building experience too, especially for families. Like, if you're really looking for a good co-op to play this holiday season, everybody seems to love Marvel right now, so I don't think you can go wrong with that.
Yep.
Nice choice. All right, I guess that makes it me. I'm going to talk about an easy one. This is one that I feel like this is like the easiest game when you have I don't know how many people are going to have a bunch of family around, but just in general, when you have family and you're not really sure what to do to fill the time's up. It's a really great game. I don't know why that blinked off the screen so fast. Sorry about that. But it's just a really neat little game where you are taking the time to go through all these different little, I don't know, memory recall things, right, Ryan? Like, you play this more than anybody I know.
I play a ton of times though.
And there's so many options. There's so many cards. That box I showed has hundreds of different cards in it, and each card has a top and a bottom. So they're double whatever you have. You're either
front and a back.
Yeah, well, front and a back essentially, but top and a bottom on the ones I have. And so they're really neat, and it's a game where you're having a lot of fun when you're playing it, because you're watching people have to try and figure out how to describe this title, how to then describe the title in one word, and then do charades with the title. So it's really an interesting and fun time. The only thing I'll say about this one is that it can be a little bit mean if somebody doesn't like being put on the spot, right? So skip that person when you're playing because
this is not a game for that person.
No.
It's also a really good game for it's a great ice-breaking game. It's a great convention game, but it's also a really good game for introverts. And I'm pretty much an introvert. I mean, you guys know that about me. And being able to sit in a group of people and act out like all these fun little like gestures and do movie knowledge allows people to, especially in convention atmosphere, kind of break out of their shell and kind of just have fun with the game. So
drinking also helps.
Well, true, but I've always found that the people at conventions that I see playing this game aren't the people that I would typically see playing these type of games. And it's fun to see people kind of branch out and do that. So, yeah, it's a really good game, and it's unfortunate that with the conventions being all canceled this year, that none of us have really played Time's Up.
I know. I just posted about this on Facebook. It's been a year now since my last Time's Up game, and we play at every convention, and sometimes we play every night at a convention. So.
I've played a ton solo this year, but
a ton of Time's Up solo.
Yeah,
Have you gotten all of your clues? Is the question.
No, not yet.
It's funny.
Whose turn is it?
It's mine. So as I picked, is it Kira's turn or my turn?
No, it's your turn.
Okay, yeah. So
Kira just talked about dice throne.
Just to reiterate my nice list, I wanted to pick easier games, ones that weren't like Pandemic or Etherfields or Sleeping Gods or other massive games. I wanted to keep it inexpensive. So if you're really interested in these kind of things, they're available right now. You can go buy them on Amazon or elsewhere. And the first one, this is going to throw you guys off big time.
Is that magic puzzle?
Yeah, these are the magic puzzle games. There were 3 of them that were on Kickstarter. I've done one of them. They're 1,000 pieces. They're very large maps, so they're 28 by 21. So they're 2.5 feet by 2 feet or so. They're really, really fun to do. They're produced with no paper dust. So they come in these packets here. So they're really nicely done with a little like stick thing that closes them. And they're precise cut. So these pieces, they just fit together perfectly. They're not like super manufactured like the ones you would typically find. But the cool thing about them too is that after you're done putting it together, they give you these sheets of paper. That are kind of like I Spies or trying to figure out like where certain things are on the map. So everyone gets out a pen and paper and starts finding all these things. And once you're done with this is when the really cool stuff happens, because you get this. So in this envelope, it says stop. You have to have completed the puzzle first. And when you do, you pull out an envelope and it says, seriously, don't open this yet. And then you open this and there's something really, really cool inside that changes. I won't get into it. I'll let you guys discover that on your own. But there's 3 of them that are out right now. It's a really fun game. And puzzles, as you know, I mean, puzzles are just puzzles. If you enjoy puzzles, anyone can do a puzzle. It can be one player or it can be, your whole family sitting around there putting pieces together. And that whole element of doing this afterwards is just super fun as well. So I backed these on Kickstarter, but I think they're available on Target too. I think I saw them the other day when I was in there. And they're mostly affordable, so you can go buy them online on Amazon as well. Do you guys have any interest in doing puzzles at all?
Oh, yeah.
You guys like puzzles?
I am super looking forward to putting one of those together. I remember when you got those in, we had a conversation about that, because I'm dying to play those, because they look so cool.
They are cool. I like them. All right, David.
Mine is not a puzzle. My first nice game, unlike Sonora, which is a flick and write, this is not quite a roll and write, but it plays similarly to a roll and write, and that is My City. This is a legacy game where you're building out a city each time with these polyominoes. I played it 2-player all the way through with my wife, and you're flipping over a card, and that card shows the piece that every player has to play on their board. So you're effectively building it out differently. And like a lot of those games, sometimes people go, oh yeah, but can't you just look around the table and everyone do the same thing? Well, effectively, you can do that maybe the first game if you want to do that. But then after that, you're going to be changing your board such that it kind of makes that more and more and more difficult. Again, I don't think a lot of people do that in general, but this game has a mechanic built in such that your boards will evolve over time, and it makes it more challenging. And even some of your pieces will evolve over time, not to spoil anything. But the thing builds on itself, and there's all these envelopes you play in these episodes. Each one is basically 3 game sessions. And for us, and we were playing 2-player, but it really shouldn't take much longer with player count because you're pretty much playing simultaneously. But at 2-player, some of these were as little as less than 15 minutes. Like we got through some of the sessions super fast. None of them took more than 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, but probably not even that. So we burnt through this thing in 2 weeks, the whole Legacy game. This is, I think, my first Legacy game. I highly recommend this game. It's super simple, and I think if you're a hardcore gamer or someone who has some experience, the first few sessions you're going to go, I mean, it's pretty basic. It gets more and more and more interesting with a lot of layered things that you're like, okay, am I going to get my points this way this time? Or wait a minute, they're getting there first because there's going to be some races too in some circumstances. So you might have to give that up. And then it also all just depends on what piece comes up in the deck the next time. The next card that's flipped, you're like, that is the exact opposite piece that I need. And it really kind of screws up your plans. But yeah, David, I really recommend it.
David, answer me this question. In my city, why is it that every time a piece is drawn and you go to fit it, you always say, I just need this to be the opposite piece?
Oh, well,
every single time.
It is interesting. There's a couple pieces that are like the classic L shape, and these are not two-sided.
Right.
So the L shape is that L shape. It's not the other L shape. And that is almost always the case, especially with that one piece.
So I have to ask you, I did not want to like this game, and David kept recommending it to me, and I ended up going to buy it. And my wife and I played the first, was there 6 chapters that we said?
3, I think, in the first envelope.
Yeah, well, there's like seven chapters total, right?
There's 8 chapters, and each envelope has 3 episodes.
So we played through the first 3, and almost every time I said, okay, I just need this piece to flip, it flipped. So the first 3 games I destroyed. Like, it was really bad to the point that she doesn't even want to play anymore. So I got to ask you, does it start to balance out over time? Did you have that same?
Oh, absolutely. Because if you didn't notice, even in those first 2 things, whoever wins gets a few things to evolve their board, but whoever loses usually gets better things to evolve their board.
Does that continue all the way through the game?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
The winner gets a penalty normally. Like, they have to put something on their board that's going to hurt them
in future
games. Like a rock, and then, the other person gets something.
The tree, maybe.
I'd say the first 3, the first envelope, because we basically played an envelope at a time. So it's like, because it's three episodes, basically 3 rounds to a game, and we played 8 games total. But it rapidly starts to accelerate. I think the first 3 are kind of like an introduction, like, okay, now you know what to expect. And then you open that second envelope and you're like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, the second envelope and then beyond, I mean, you'll see some things on the player board where you're like, something looks like it's going to go here. And surely it does, because that player board by the end has stuff everywhere and all sorts of different new mechanics of how you're playing and how you're starting off. Like, once you get used to the idea that, like, okay, our first piece always goes next to the river. And then at a certain point it says, no, we're going to change it up. So it's, like I said, I don't want to say too much, because if you haven't played it, I recommend it. The other thing about this game, it is super cheap for what you're getting in this game.
Right.
I think I got it for like between $20 and $30. And that wasn't like at a sort of, online retailer. I think it was at B&N, which is where you could only get it for a while. So it's a tremendous value. I highly recommend this game.
I'm going to have to convince my wife to give it another try.
And also, it's hard to see, but the whole goal of the game is to earn those little, like, these progress points. Mm-hmm. And you can overall win without ever having won an actual episode, because they start giving you so many other ways to earn those points that winning, it doesn't even become the best way to earn them. But yeah, anyway, I could talk about my city all day, so we should probably.
What are you going to talk about, Ryan? Because you're up.
All right. Well, my second nice game is Wingspan. The reason I picked this is because I think Wingspan is a very relaxing game to play. It is not mean at all. You're really not directly interfering with other players. Everyone is kind of building their own board. The only really conflict in this game is, okay, who has maybe the most of something? You're kind of competing to collect different things based on scores that change every game, and maybe you can draft some birds away from someone, but the game is absolutely gorgeous. All the components are great. all of these birds. The illustrations look like they could have come out of like a bird textbook. I mean, they're like incredibly detailed. They put a lot of love into this game, and it is just a fairly relaxing game, especially for new players, because it's very easy to teach. And the game has a theme that just makes sense. And so I think any kind of family could just sit back, and when you get done playing Wingspan, you just kind of feel chill. Like it's just a nice, relaxing, fun game to play.
Chill.
Yep.
Yeah, chill.
Right
just,
on. Right on.
Have a good time.
Right on.
So
everybody loves Wingspan.
So I'm going to talk about a cooperative game. And I believe my next two are cooperative. Yeah. So this is one Jeremy and I played on our Thursday night live stream called Paleo. This game, while it can be mean to you, you are working together to mitigate the bad stuff that's happening to you and try and work through it. It's got a very nice theme, a fun theme. It's got really pretty art. And again, you could probably play this because it's very icon based. You could play this with about any age group because it's just about recognizing those icons at this point. But you can see here, there's just not a lot of text other than the description of the card itself. And then not to mention that you're building up and you're getting new things, and it changes every time you play because you're scaling to the next level, I guess. Is that what you would call it, Jeremy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're constantly adding new cards and doing new scenarios. Yeah, Paleo is a great game. It is a great game, and it's very, very unique. Like if you like cooperative games, I play a lot of cooperative games. I've never played anything like Paleo before. It's entirely unique in the way that it plays.
Totally agree.
Yeah, it's great. My next one is another game that we played on the Comp and Co-op show. It is Zombie Teens Evolution. So Kira and I have played all the way through Kids, and we're more than halfway, roughly, through Zombie Teens Evolution. We've played several games since we streamed it. It is a legacy light game. It is a great game for anybody. Like it's just basically dice rolling and moving your teens, in this case, around a schoolyard, trying to deliver crates to areas where these zombies are attacking you. Very light. But just like a legacy game, it builds and it builds and it builds. It adds new things, adds new challenges, adds new ways that the zombies move, new ways that you can defeat the zombies. And there's 20 envelopes in there.
Easily.
There's A through something, and then one. Yeah, there's a lot of envelopes in there. So it feels like every 3 to 5 games you're opening a new envelope. Mm-hmm. And when I say games, the games are short. They take maybe 10 minutes to play through a game, each game that you play. And you get better. You start to understand like little strategies, but of course the dice can roll poorly against you, and you're just like trying to mitigate those things as you go. We know several people that have kids that are playing this with their kids as well. So as I said, you can play this with just about anybody, and we're in our 30s and 40s and we're playing the game and loving it. So I think this could appeal to just about anyone. It's got really good art. It's got really good gameplay. Just a fantastic game.
Yeah, I got the kids for my nephew last year after playing, and he's, I think he's the same age as Lily, 7, 8 years old. And then I'll absolutely be getting him teens this year because he's, a little older this year, and it's a little bit more challenging. It's not as easy as the first one. The games are slightly longer, like you said. You go from a high five to a fist bump, and but it definitely added a lot of new challenge. And it's funny because it is kind of made for kids or families, and we're playing the heck out of this one. So, David.
Me? All right. I don't have 3 games, but I am going to talk about sort of 2 games here. I'm going to start by saying my next nice game is The Search for Planet X. We had a chance to do a preview for this one, and I liked it pretty well. This is a deduction game where you're competing against one another, trying to find the location of this planet. And it's got a lot of completely different mechanisms than a game like Cryptid, but it's the same sort of thing because there's one planet out there and you're kind of going around this solar system, if you will, trying to deduce where the planet is, what sector is, and it uses this app. It's a really cool feature. Now, this has gotten a lot of attention this year. It's been covered on some channels and it rose up the hotness list at a certain point. So I highly recommend it if you want a new deduction game. However, if you want the greatest deduction game of all time, buy Cryptid. Cryptid is easily one of my favorite games of all time. Like I have not played another deduction game in that ilk that compares to Cryptid. There's no other game that can make you feel as smart or as dumb all at the same time.
Yeah,
that's true.
And it's nice. You're not like there's nothing in this game other than if you gloat at the end, that might not be nice. But it's perfectly, you're just competing against yourself and others, of course, but to see who can be the first one to figure out where the thing is.
Yeah, I was surprised. Like the first time we played, I felt really dumb. It's
easy to feel dumb.
Really dumb.
If anyone, I have felt dumb and I've felt like a genius when I've played that game, because if you're the first person to get it and like there's no greater, I've said it before, there's no greater feeling than going, oh, here, and everyone else at the table's like, what? And I'm like, yes, this was you, and this was you, and everyone else is like, I have no idea. I didn't even know who anyone was. But then on the flip side, I've been in that same boat where I'm like, my brain is not working today. So
isn't that crazy how people's minds can work that way? Like I'm not overly good at those type of games. Search for Planet X and Cryptid, I'm okay. But games like Whitehall and Letters from Whitechapel, I feel like I'm better at.
Whitehall's
even though they have some of the same kind of mechanisms, but
that's because you're often the one hiding in those games.
True.
Yeah, right. So there's a little more human element in them than maybe Cryptid, but sometimes Cryptid just breaks my brain. Like I can't think in some of those ways
I will say the one thing you need to be concerned about, I don't find this to be a huge concern, but when you play a game like Cryptid, if there is a player at the table who makes a mistake, because you're basically gathering information, and if you say Kira or Ryan, what about this location? And you have to know a little bit about the game to understand this, but they are supposed to tell you based on information that they know to be true, whether that location fulfills what you're asking or doesn't.
Right.
And if 5 rounds ago Ryan made a mistake when he told me something about that spot, it destroys the entire game. Like you can go, well, wait a minute, Ryan, are you sure this space doesn't work? And then he goes, yeah,
that's that feeling
like
of dumb. That first time you play is because I did if you remember, I did exactly that, and it was kind of like, okay, let's start over.
It happens in 1 in every 5 games of Cryptid that will happen, but
I don't know about 1 in 5 even.
It's worth getting through those or getting past those.
Ryan, your final game.
This is my final game on my nice list. And this is Tiny Towns. And I'm going to specifically call out Tiny Towns Villagers, which is the new expansion of Tiny Towns that came out earlier this year. I think Tiny Towns is just a great game for what we're talking about today, because it is it's like solitaire almost game where everybody has their own board and everyone is competing with the same set of resources to build the best little town. And if you don't know how this game plays, there's either a central deck, which I recommend, where you're going to flip over resource cards and everyone's placing those resources on their board, or you go around the table, each person's picking a resource. That mode can get a little more mean because you can start depriving people of resources if you want to play that way. I don't like playing games that way, especially a game like Tiny Towns, because it's a really cool puzzle, because the way you lay out these resources on your player board determines which buildings you can build. They all require a different layout of pieces, a different combination, and you basically are competing with other people for points. So there is no direct competition with other players at all. You're just seeing who can do the best with the same set of data, basically. And that's kind of how the base game was, and there's been 2 expansions that have come out since that have added in a ton of new buildings and some new mechanics and some new interesting twists to that game. Again, this is one that's very easy to learn. People are going to be going, at each other's throats. There's no take that. So again, I think that this is one that I can safely recommend to any family out there, and just a good gift for any gamer, really. I mean, this is still a pretty hot game, even a year or 2 after its release. In fact, AEG, the publisher, live streamed Tiny Towns almost every day this year. Over the course of the pandemic, and I don't think in any of their live streams did they replay the same exact set of cards out, which it's just a testament to how much variability there is in that game as well.
Well, we live streamed it
that's
too.
my number 3.
And the wonderful thing about this game is it plays really well over, say, Zoom or Discord or whatever.
Yeah.
If you have 2 copies of the game, right? We played live stream. People played along with us with their copies of the game. It's a really easy game to follow and play with remotely if you have multiple copies of the game. So if you want to get it for your family and you have a copy, really great idea, especially if they're not coming to see you for the holidays this year. So
yeah,
back to me.
And you can play along with us.
Yeah,
if you watch our stream.
You can do that too.
Yep.
So is it back to me then?
Kira.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about another co-op. This one is great fun. Again, played it as adults, but it's probably meant for more like the families. And this is the new Coded Chronicles Escape from the Haunted Mansion Scooby Doo. Super fun, super thematic. I'll be honest, when we first got this, I was like, oh, it'll be fun because it's Scooby Doo, but it'll probably be really easy and really light. And it wasn't. We actually did have some struggles with it. It's a challenge. It's not so hard that you would play it with the kids and it would be difficult, but you would probably be helping each other out and helping them discover some of these clues depending on their age. I know we needed some help, but really, really great. And I'm excited to see what else is coming in this line of Coded Chronicles from them, but this is a really great one to start with.
Yeah,
I
like
like that game a lot. Yeah, my next one is the graphic novel adventures from Van Ryder Games. I think this is a really good gift for anybody, especially for solo gamers in your house. I grew up playing a lot of choose your own adventure games. Like it was the one thing that I always asked for in my stocking from my family, and I played the heck out of them. And I was super excited when these came out. They've been kickstarted over the past 3 years. This is season 3. Each one of them comes with 5 different books in here. The unique thing going on with these is that these choose your own adventures, a lot of them have like character sheets in the beginning or maps or whatnot, and you could print those off on the Van Ryder website so you don't have to write in your books, because once you're done with it, you can pass it on to a friend. But each game plays really, really differently, especially on how they build out. Like one of them here is a theme park, one of them is being a little Van Helsing and trying to destroy monsters. Like there's a lot of cool little themes going on. They're really fun to play. I played through all of the first 2 seasons. I've not touched any of these yet, and these just got delivered, I don't know, maybe a couple months ago. But they're relatively cheap, and if you don't want to spend, $60 on the whole, $60-$70 on the whole thing, you can buy books at a time as well for someone who's like specific types of themes.
Fun fact. Yeah. You can't use choose your own adventure technically, even though it's a great way to describe these. If you're the publisher, it's actually trademarked. I did not know that until recently, and I thought that was really interesting because it's just a description at the end of the day.
It was the name of the book series, though.
Interesting. Yeah, well, yeah, there's your own choose your own adventure games too, right? Mm-hmm. By Asmodee or Z-Man or something like that. So. Anyway, games we've been playing, we'll do that quickly. Anyone want to start with the games that we've been playing over the past couple weeks?
I'll start.
Yeah.
I've been playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Yeah. 100%.
A fair amount of it. Into the wee morning hours, I've literally been up till like 2 or 3 almost every night. I haven't played it for a couple days, but both my wife Alicia and I are both playing it. We've both sunk quite a few hours into it. It's a tremendous time sink. I'm enjoying it just as much, maybe even a little bit more so than Odyssey from a narrative standpoint, although I do like the Greek setting of Odyssey. But the narrative and the storylines that are going on is keeping me involved, more like The Witcher in that respect. And speaking of, I have played some board games. I played Holy a couple times with Alicia and also with some family, and had a really good time with it. That is a great game too, in my opinion, for the holidays and for family. It can be a little, not a little mean, but there are times where you're throwing color into the other player's face, if you will. But it's a lot of fun game. It's a triple-tiered board. And if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's a little hard to describe, but you're climbing up this thing and like dropping powder all over the board. And it's a really interesting puzzle to figure out. And it has a few different strategies to or approaches to take to get your points. And then one thing I also wanted to mention, I wanted to mention this earlier when I brought up Oceans. And since I talked about a video game, here's the merger between the two. Evolution is they've been updating that, the digital version of that. It's worth taking a look. And I did just find out, I don't know that it's available yet, but Oceans as well is coming to the digital formats. So that version of Evolution, if you haven't played it, it's a great way to introduce yourself to the concept of how that game works, because it is a different sort of game. I haven't looked at the Oceans one yet, but I think it's in basically their form of early access, I believe. But it's going to be.
We got a code for it if you want to try it on the Switch, David.
On Switch. Yeah. Oh, Evolution.
No, Oceans.
No, Oceans.
Oh, Oceans on Switch. Okay.
Haven't had a chance to check it out
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'll go next. Oh, you want to go, Ryan?
I was just going to say, I think we've all been playing a lot of Valhalla, is what I was going to say.
Yeah, I am very close to the end. I've got 2 regions left, and I'll be done. So
Jeremy's been playing more than the rest of us.
Well, I've been playing a lot of other games too, but Valhalla is just so good.
Yeah, it is very good. Also played Cyberpunk a little bit, but I don't know. I think it needs some work. Anyway, board games I've been playing. We saw that Kira and I played Darwin's Journey. I'm going to play that this weekend with my wife. I love that game. Like, it would probably be my #1 game if it was released this year, but it's coming to Kickstarter on January 5th. Get excited. I love it. There is a video of us playing it. So go check it out on our channel. Also, Kira and I played this game. It's called Cthulhu Wars Duel. We can start talking about it today because there was an embargo on it. We've only played it once. It is okay. I'm not a huge fan of Cthulhu Wars, and I think that in this game you have the Black Goat versus Cthulhu. It's played out over a board. It's completely isometric because each of the 2 sides play differently. But it's roughly the same goal, and the game can end in multiple different ways. So it's a head-to-head match. It's a little longer game than what I would prefer. I think it's like an hour and a half is what we played it in, Kira. It was long, and it says on the back that it takes 20 to 30 minutes. I don't know if that's the case, or if we just played poorly, or we weren't playing as aggressively as what we could have played. I need to play it more than once, and honestly, I need to play it with some of the expansions where you have different kinds of monsters that do different things. To really get a good feel of it, but it's okay. It's not my type of game, but it's okay. And the other 2 games I've been playing, of course, are ISS Vanguard. I just posted my final thoughts. Poured a lot of time into that game. We spent about 3 hours with their design team on the phone learning the game, and then I spent another 5 or 6 hours playing through the other 2 missions solo. There's a lot of cool things going on in this. I feel right now like I did with Etherfields after I played it. I liked Etherfields, but I felt like it had issues. And I feel like ISS Vanguard also has issues. But knowing Awaken Realms, know how much time they spend developing games, like they'll develop right up to the time they start producing them. So I have complete faith in them fixing some of those kinks. But the ship book is really the coolest element of that game. It makes you feel like you're part of a team that's, deep in space, working together to try to upgrade your ship. And there's so many different things that go on in that ship book. And that's not even the main game. Like, the main game's on the planet. But that part of it's really unique. I've never played a game quite like that. And the last one I'll talk about is 7 Wonders Duel Agora. We just got this in. We've been asking this forever. We're going to play it live Thursday on Comp and Co-op Show. We're going to give away a copy too. So all you have to do is go to that, watch it. I'll give you my opinion on it right now. I think that it is a solid expansion, but I also think that they're at a point now where the game is starting to feel too much. Like, there's so much going on in there after you've already added Pantheon to it that I think that the series needs to end right here. Like, if you add too much more, except maybe adding a few cards here and there, like, it becomes almost bloated. Not bloated in a bad way that the game makes the game bad. It's just, it's a different game now because there's a lot of things you have to consider going on in that game.
I mean, if they added anything else, you'd have to take something else out. You could only play with certain parts. You couldn't play with everything if they added any more, because it's a lot going on.
The base 7 Wonders, I felt that same way when you start adding in all of the 7 Wonders expansions, and then Armada came out a year. Like, it really changes the game. Like, you spend so much time trying to remember what everything does, honestly.
Yeah, that's about how this is starting to feel at this point. And for a 2-player game that was always been like a 30-minute game, it's taking a longer amount of time. Not because they're adding parts that add time, it's just a lot more stuff to consider on your turn. Mm-hmm. Like, with every single card that comes out, it's like, well, if I do this, it's going to be this strategy. If it fails, I've got to do this. So now you add that component to it. There's just a lot more to do. So we'll walk through that entire game with you guys on Thursday, so you have a good idea of what it's about.
Ryan?
That's what I got.
All right, sure, I'll go. I've been playing through a lot of games because we're getting close to the end of the year, and it's getting close to the time where we're probably going to put together some kind of top 10 list of our favorite games. So there were several that I've wanted to play and replay before the end of the year so I could really talk about them. So I've been playing games like Bonfire. I've been back and playing Bonfire, Lost Ruins of Arnak. Dave and I already talked about My City, but I played through all of My City in about 2 weeks with a group. We had a group of 4 people, and it was just really cool. A really, really cool experience. I don't want to talk too much about that. And I've played maybe 5 games of the new version of Rococo since it's been delivered, and I love that game. One of those games was on the live stream, so you could watch Kira and I play Rococo. I see why some people might be turned away from the way that the new deluxe edition looks, but personally, I love it. It's kind of weird because I opened up my old version of Rococo and I'm looking at them side by side, and I'm like, oh man, because the original Rococo is still beautiful. Like, it didn't really need this upgrade like some games do, but since I have the upgrade, I really like the way the upgrade looks, and so that, and then lastly, I finally got to play Dune Imperium, which I've been wanting to play for months. I've been dying to play that. We finally had a chance to play it on the live stream. I'm a huge Dune fan. I am counting down the days until the Dune movie is released. And I have to say, as a fan of Dune and as a fan of Clank and that designer Paul Dennen, as a fan of his games, this was a big hit for me. It hit that sweet spot of loving Dune, but not feeling like they tried to recreate Dune. I mean, it's a very streamlined game, but it does still have a lot of little references and a lot of little nods to the source material. I got to play it again before the end of the year, which I'm going to be doing this weekend. But yeah, Dune Imperium got a big thumbs up from me.
I've been playing stuff with Jeremy and David and Ryan. Sorry, not David. David, you haven't been around as much lately. When's the last time you and I played a game together? I don't know. Anyway,
I don't know.
Most of the stuff that that they went through, I've played as well. Rococo, Dune, obviously Darwin's Journey, and all the ones that we mentioned. But I will bring up one that I have been playing with my group who loves the Unlock style games, and also are Star Wars fans. I know Jeremy was not the biggest fan of the first one after playing it, but the new Star Wars Unlock. It is a fun game for a gateway Star Wars fan. Like, if you're an Unlock fan, you're going to go in and you're like, this was kind of easy on the first one, and it didn't offer a ton of challenge. But if you think about it, it's marketed to a much wider market than maybe the typical Unlock audience because of the Star Wars IP. So the first 2 are on the easier side, and then there's a medium one at the end, which we haven't played yet, but my friends are loving it. And it is right at the level of kind of gameplay that they enjoy. So we've actually been having a lot of fun with it. I personally would like a little bit more challenge out of it, but I totally understand why it doesn't have that. There's one more thing that I've been playing, and I was actually surprised that Jeremy didn't bring it up because it's kind of like
I forgot.
Super secret.
I'm saying it in the comments,
so we can't talk about it, but it's great.
You can show the picture that I took of it.
Let me see if I can get it pulled up here for everybody.
Except for us.
Yeah.
So we can kind of talk about it. We can tell you that it's a new game from Roxley. The people who made Brass, people who made Dice Throne. This is a full-on production sample of what we got, and I played it. I played it with Gavin at Roxley, and I love it. Like,
so good.
If you like Dice Throne, you're gonna like this game. It is really cool. It is a really cool game, and I can't say anything else because they've not announced it, and we're not supposed to announce it or really talk about it. But they gave us permission to show that picture, and look for more coverage of that game here very, very soon.
As everybody knows, I get to work with them, and I've been watching this evolve, and I'm watching it get ready for its Kickstarter, and it's just I'm very excited for everybody to see it. I've got it hidden behind here for me, and it's so good. I was talking to Gavin earlier, and I was like, man, it just looks so dang good. And that is normal for Roxley, but it's just so good. And on top of it, it's a really, really great game. Really great game and timely type of game. And I can't wait for everybody to see it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Timely with the theme?
Little
You guys better stop talking.
Right.
Player count.
Right.
Player count. It's
player
game.
count.
I'll say that.
Okay.
All right.
Okay,
So anything else? Any parting shots? So we're going to have another one of these before the holiday. Before
Another
Christmas.
chit chat?
Yeah. What is today?
I don't know.
24th.
Between now and the end of the year, you'll probably see maybe another chit chat. We may do some special episodes that are more like our top 10s and stuff like that.
Yep.
Probably wait for our most anticipated till probably after the first of the year.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'll see some of the usual suspects between now and then, and maybe another standard episode of Chit Chat. But we'll definitely be talking about what's happening during the holidays, and then maybe taking a peek into next year.
And we'll also have. When do you think we'll have the Coffee Traders up, David? That's a really cool game from Capstone that we did a round one
That's
for.
the last game we played, David.
Yeah, we all play together. Yeah.
We played Coffee Traders without Ryan. Ryan was there in spirit. But it has a giant footprint. Oh. So we played it at 3 players for a round one. I am currently, not right this second, but I am editing it. It's a little long. It's about an hour or so, or a little bit more. But that should be up this weekend, is my hope. I should be able to get through that, probably done for the night, but tomorrow and on Saturday.
And happy birthday to David.
Yep, this weekend.
My birthday is coming up. I'm old. I'm even older. So
if you haven't joined our Discord yet, the link is in our description below. So make sure that you join, and then you can come and help bombard David with birthday gifts in our Discord channel and emojis and all that.
Did you say gifts with a T, or just gifts with an F?
Gifts.
You can do gifts too. Either way, I'll send you my address.
All right, so that is our Naughty or Nice list 2020. If you have any questions about any of the games that we mentioned here, make them in the comments below, and we'll talk more about them there. As always, we will see you guys next time. Have a very safe holiday with your friends and your family. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Take care.